Sunday was a warm spring day. On his washstand he found 3 gold florins which Bertoldo said would be left for him each week by Lorenzo's secretary, Ser Piero de Bibbiena. He could not resist the temptation of showing off to his family. On his bed he laid out another new outfit, the white blouse embroidered with grapes and leaves, the short surcoat with cape sleeves belted in front with silver buckles, the wine-colored stockings. He smiled to himself as he pictured Granacci's expression when he met him in the Piazza San Marco so they could walk home together. Rusticci stared at him as he came down the path, and when Michelangelo was close enough, mimicked and plain, then more acidly, spread your tail. My tail? All peacocks have colorful tails. Oh, now, Rusticci, he wailed, can't I wear them even once? Can't I wear this jewelry just once? Can't I drink this rare wine just once? Order these servants around just once? Squander some gold coins just once? Sleep with this pretty girl just once? All the temptations of the flesh are in one sonnet. Truly, Rusticci, I feel as though I were dressed up in a costume for a pageant, but I would like to impress my family. Via, growled Rusticci, go your way. Torrigiani came stalking down the path, his flame-colored cloak and orange plumes on his black velvet hat flying. He hauled up short in front of Michelangelo. I want to talk to you alone. Torrigiani seized his arm. Michelangelo held back. Why alone? We have no secrets. We shared confidences until you moved into the palace and became so important. There was no mistaking the emotion behind Torrigiani's outburst. Michelangelo spoke gently, hoping to placate him. But you live in your own palace, Torrigiani. Yes, I don't have to play cheap little tricks like knocking out a fawn's teeth to ingratiate myself with the Medici. You sound jealous. Of what? Of an insufferable prig? Why a prig? What's the connection? Because you know nothing about happiness or comradeship. I've never been happier. Yes, setting down charcoal lines with your grimy hands. But charcoal lines, protested Michelangelo, refusing to take Torrigiani seriously. Torrigiani went purple in the face. Are you implying that mine are not? Why do you always bring a discussion back to yourself? You're not the center of the universe. To myself I am, and I was to you too until your head had got swollen. Michelangelo stared at him in amazement. You were never the center of my universe. Then you deceived me. You're sucking up for your commissions an awful long time in advance. The sun went cold in Michelangelo's face. He turned and ran as hard as he could out of the garden and down the street of the curious makers. The carpenter and grocer sitting in the sun before their shops pulled at their caps respectfully. Otherwise, his new clothes were no more of a success at home than they had been with Rusticci. His father felt hurt, as though the finery were in some way a reproach to him. Michelangelo took the 3 gold florins from the purse on his belt and put them on Lodovico's desk. Lodovico gazed at them without comment, but his stepmother Lucrezia bussed him happily on both cheeks, her eyes bright with excitement. Now tell me, what sauces do they use on the pasta? Michelangelo racked his brains, wanting to please I can't remember. Then the meats, do the palace cooks use zeddery? What of their famous salt cooked with banana strips and pine nuts? Forgive me, Madre mia, I don't know. She shook her head in despair. Don't you remember what you chew? Then make friends with the cooks. Write down the recipes for my sake. Now the full family had assembled in Lodovico's combination office and sitting room. His grandmother was happy because he was meeting the great man of Florence. His brother, Giovanna Zamone, was interested in the parties. His aunt and uncle were pleased because of the gold coins he had brought home. Buonarrota wanted to know about the business arrangement. Was he to receive 3 gold coins every week, with a stone and materials taken out of his salary? His father called for attention. How do the Medici treat you, Il Magnifico? Well, Piero, he is arrogant. It is his nature. Giovanni, the cardinal-to-be, he treats all alike, as though each meeting were the first. Giuliano, Michelangelo smarted, the whole palace loves him. Lodovico cogitated a moment, then announced, Piero's attitude will prevail. You were in the palace as a humble workman. He eyed the 3 gold coins gleaming on the desk. What are they? A gift? A wage? I'm to have 3 florins each week. What did they say when they delivered the money? It was on my wash table when I asked Bertoldo. He said that it was a weekly allowance. His uncle Francesco could not contain his delight. Splendid! With the steady money we can rent a stall, Michelangelo. You will be a partner. You will share in the profits. Imagine. His aunt Cassandra chimed in with a newborn respect, that Michelangelo should be the one to put us back in commerce. Oh, it was Lodovico, his face a deep red. You're not a bashful fool. But they were given to Michelangelo as a member of the Medici family, answering his young wife. Humph! Snorted Lodovico. What makes him a Medici? 3 gold coins. It is not charity. Michelangelo was indignant. I work from light to dark. Are you legally apprenticed? Did I sign a guild agreement? He turned on his brother Francesco. A gift is a whim. Next week there may be nothing. Michelangelo thought his father was going to throw the money at his head. He had meant only to bring home his earnings like a dutiful son, perhaps bragging a little, but the 3 gold florins were more than Ludovico would earn in months at the customs. Michelangelo realized that he had been indelicate, for now, with his head on his chest, Ludovico commented, Think how many millions of florins the Medici must have if they can give a 15-year-old student 3 of them each week. Then, with a quick movement of his hand, he swept them into the top drawer of his desk. Lucrezia seized the moment to summon them to table. After dinner, the family reassembled in the sitting room. Leonardo, silent during the earlier discussion, placed himself in front of Michelangelo to proclaim in a pontifical voice, Art is a vice. Art, a vice. Michelangelo was amazed at his brother. How? Why? Because it is self-indulgence. Concentration on your own lust to create instead of contemplating the glories of what God has created. But Leonardo, our churches are plastered with art. We have been led astray by the devil. Our church is not a fair. People will go to pray on their knees, not to see a play painted on the walls. And there is no place for sculpture in your world. Leonardo clasped his hands, gazing devoutly through the ceiling. My world is the next world, where we will sit at the right hand of God. Lodovico rose from his seat, exclaimed, Now I have 2 fanatics on my hands. He left for his midday nap, followed by the rest of the family. Only Monna Alessandra remained sitting quietly in a corner. Michelangelo, too, wanted to leave. He was feeling tired. The whole day had been a disappointment. Leonardo would not let him go. He moved into a frontal attack on Lorenzo and the Plato Academy as pagans, atheists, enemies of the church, antichrists. I promise you, Leonardo, began Michelangelo placatingly, I have heard no sacrilege, irreverence, at least not to religion itself, only to the abuses. Lorenzo is a reformer. He wants to cleanse the church. Cleanse? A word that infidels use when they mean destroy. An attack on the church is an attack on Christianity. Now, in a rage, Leonardo accused Lorenzo de' Medici of carnality, debauchery, of leaving the palace at midnight to ride out with his cronies to nights of revelry and seduction of young women. Of these charges, I know nothing, said Michelangelo quietly. But he is a widower. Should he not love? He was a philanderer before the death of his wife. It is common knowledge his lust has already enfeebled his body. He wondered how his brother came into possession of such charges. He did not think of Lorenzo as a saint. He had heard him say laughingly to Landino, I do not err through wickedness, but rather through some part of my nature that loves pleasure. And he remembered Lorenzo's reply to Ficino, I cannot regret that I love the pleasures of the flesh, for the love of painting, sculpture, and literature are also sensual in nature. All this seemed to him to be the private affair of a virile, effective man. Only a toady like yourself would be unable to see that Lorenzo is a tyrant, continued Leonardo. Michelangelo thought, this is the second time today I have been called a toady. He became increasingly miserable. His clothes felt tight and ridiculous. He has destroyed the freedom of Florence, cried Leonardo. He has made things soft and easy for the people. He gives them bread and circuses. The only reason he has failed to take a crown and become king is that he is too devious. He likes to work behind the scenes, controlling every move while the Tuscans are reduced to pawns. Before Michelangelo could reply, Mona Alessandra said, Yes, Leonardo, he is softening us. He has kept us from civil war. For years we destroyed each other, family against family, neighborhood against neighborhood, with blood flowing in the streets. Now we are unified people. Only the Medici can keep us from each other's throats. Leonardo refused to answer his grandmother. Michelangelo, I wish one last word with you. Michelangelo faced his brother across a heavy mahogany table. He had never been able to talk to the strange boy or enjoy any companionship with him. This is my farewell to you. I have the house tonight to join Girolamo Savonarola in San Marco. Then Savonarola has arrived. Lorenzo invited him. It was in the studiolo when Pico della Mirandola suggested it, and Lorenzo agreed to write to Lombardi. A Medici, why should Lorenzo summon him when it is Savonarola's intention to destroy the Medici? I'd leave this house as Fra Savonarola left his family in Ferrara, with only a shirt on my back, forever. I shall pray for you on the floor of my cell until there is no skin left on my knees, and the blood comes. Perhaps in that blood you can be redeemed. Michelangelo could see from Leonardo's burning eyes that there was no use in answering. He shook his head in mock despair, thought, Father is right. How did this same sensible, money-changing Buonarroti family, who have had nothing but conformists for 200 years, hatch two fanatics in one generation? He murmured to Leonardo, We shall not be too far apart, only a few 100 feet across the piazza to San Marco. If you lean out the window of your monastery cell, you will hear me cutting stone in the garden.